Thank you so much for welcoming me, my daughter Ellie, and my mom Rainey here today. I'm truly, truly honored to speak with you. I'm here to tell a story about connecting the dots and how doing so has led to the most incredible and unintentional journey of self-discovery. Earlier this year, I started a meeting for my provisional class with this quote from Steve Jobs, given at Stanford in 2005. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something. Your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path, and that will make all the difference. Here's where my NCL dots started. In 1985, I was 14, in 8th grade going into 9th. I didn't have any big ideas of what it meant to be a National Charity League. I wanted to join because all my friends were doing it, and it would be fun. Since I didn't know how much time it would take to be a TikToker and I was starting high school, I focused my first summer on earning all my hours. One of the places I volunteered was the Orange County Writing Center. Today you know it as the J.F. Shea Center for Therapeutic Writing. Every week I would come for my shifts, and there was this boy, who was a couple years older than me, who had his sessions at the same time I was volunteering. If I'm being totally honest, I was really intimidated. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never been around horses, I'd never been a volunteer before, and I'd never even been around kids with disabilities. It was scary. The boy was quadriplegic. He didn't speak, at least not in a way I could understand. I didn't know it at the time, but he was born with cerebral palsy. He had no control of his arms and legs. He wore a scarf around his neck, almost like a bib, because he didn't have control of the muscles in his mouth and he would drool. You cannot imagine what it took to get him out of his mom's van, into his wheelchair, and onto a horse. It was intense, until he was riding. My job was to walk alongside the horse. So while we were walking, I got to see the boy start to relax and smile. He was not the same kid he was in the wheelchair. He laughed and every bit of tension disappeared from his body, and mine. It felt like magic. My weekly shifts at the center quickly became one of my favorite things, even though the work was hot and dirty, and while I was shoveling manure and cleaning tack, my friends were going to the beach. I learned to ride a horse that summer, and I began to understand how useful I could be as a volunteer. I didn't need experience to be helpful. I just needed to be open to learning and doing the best I could. That lesson was one of the most important things I learned in NCL. All I needed to do was show up, be open to learning, and do the best I could, and I was useful. Knowing this gave me the confidence to run for student government in high school, for office in my sorority, and pretty much helped me in every job ever since. Now I'm going to fast forward to 2011. The lessons I learned at NCL had served me really well for a very long time, but I ran out of steam. I was 40 years old, married, living the suburban dream with a house and 2 kids, running my own business, and deeply, deeply unhappy. I loved my family and I loved my work, but my life didn't work. On the outside, everything looked perfect, but on the inside, I was a mess. In my own way, I'd become paralyzed. I'd sit in meetings and listen to other business owners, jealous of anyone who seemed like they had it figured out. I didn't even know what it was, but I was pretty sure they had it, and I didn't. But I kept going, even without a destination. I kept showing up, open to learning, and trying my best to be useful. One night I was watching TV. What else would I be doing? The Oprah Winfrey Show had just gone off the air after 25 years, and I was obsessed with Oprah's next chapter, the Oprah Winfrey Network. So there was this show I was watching called Finding Sarah, which featured Dr. Martha Beck, who was also a life coach, working with Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York, through a series of adventures and explorations to reinvent herself. She made a vision board, she went dog sledding in the Yukon, and if you can believe it, she was working with horses. Watching the episode where the Duchess learned about her impact on working with a wild horse, I immediately flashed back to my summers at the center and remembered the boy who transformed with horses. This was a thing. Horses in leadership, horses in healing, horses in transformation. Maybe I could do this. There was a spark inside me that had nearly gone out. Seeing the Duchess find herself, I was inspired to find myself again too. For the next 9 months, I asked everyone I knew about horses and coaching and horses and leadership. I began exploring different ways to help people through adventures. What if we could teach leadership in driving a race car? Or learning to surf? Or ballroom dancing? Which, by the way, I've now done all these things, and it's amazing. I started to imagine a world where my life could be meaningful, fulfilling, and fun. Maybe I really could find a way to work with horses to help people. Soon enough, I met a colleague who worked with horses and leaders in Northern California who introduced me to a program doing the same in Los Angeles, and I was invited to participate in equine leadership training. I showed up, open to learning, and did my best. What happened that day with the horses and what I learned about myself completely changed me. People had to know about this. So a few months later, I co-led an equine leadership training, and my husband joined along with several of my closest friends and colleagues who were willing to do this crazy and brave thing with me. And every single person had a profound moment with a horse, just by showing up, being open to learning, and doing their best. It was so moving for my husband that he and I continued equine leadership lessons, and soon after we adopted our first 2 horses. We kept showing up, open to learning, and doing our best. And now we had 6 horses, and worked with a new trainer and her husband who've become part of our family. Together, we moved our horses out to a ranch in San Ynez, which is just outside of Santa Barbara, which, by the way, I first visited on a college tour with my TikToker class in 10th grade. I could have never known how this idea would blossom and grow, or how our horses would help people heal. I would not have known that girls growing up in foster care would come to our ranch, gain self-esteem, and leave with a sense of purpose. I would not have imagined that we would help a young woman want to live again after she'd survived an assault. I never would have thought our horses would help a woman ride again after an accident that nearly killed her, nor that horses would give one last adventure to a man dying from cancer. I didn't do any of this alone. In fact, I did very little of it myself. I became a part of something much bigger. I would never understand what transpired that changed my dream beyond professional coaching and leadership to becoming a person who connects dots, just by showing up, open to learning, and doing my best. And that was all I ever needed to be. So last fall, I published my first book and shared my stories of being lost and confused and how horses came into my life again when I needed them most. And I told the boys' story on page 64. So you see, the Orange County Riding Center has changed names over the years, and I've been trying to track it down for about as long as we've had the internet with no success. But last summer, after Ellie and I joined our local NCL chapter, I searched again, wondering if maybe the Saddleback Valley chapter was still worked with horses. Through you, I discovered that the Orange County Riding Center is now the Shea Center, and that boy, whose name is Michael Lewis, continues to ride every week. I sent a copy of my book to Mike's mom and dad with a thank you note, a skill I learned very well as a TikToker, to let them know the impact their son has made on my life. I'd like to read you part of the letter I sent to Nancy and Derek Lewis, who founded the Jacob F. Shea Center for Therapeutic Riding. Since 2012, we've grown our family to include a herd of more than 50 wild and domestic horses. We continue to do one-on-one work with humans and horses and offer customized group leadership programs with our herd. I could go on and on telling you the stories of the lives that have been changed through our horses, but you already know the magic. Let it suffice to say that Michael's smile has multiplied exponentially. Thank you for your vision and commitment. Your lives have blessed many. I also shared this letter that I sent the Lewis family with Annie Turpin because thank you notes are really important. And I would not be where I am today without National Charity League of Saddleback Valley, and I thought you should know how much you all matter. It's full circle. So it's 30 years after I graduated, and I'm now serving a new set of philanthropies with my daughter, Ellie. She didn't join NCL with any big ideas about leadership. She doesn't really care that much about horses. But she knew it would be worth it because I said it was. This year, we volunteered together 80 hours and have baked at least 600 cookies. And she's making her own set of dots to connect. It's hard to sum up this NCL lifetime and timeline into a few key points, but there are some important things I've learned along the way that I'd love to share with you. First, Every minute counts. You know this when you're adding them up for awards, right? Whether or not you have a skill or ability when you volunteer or not, simply showing up, being open to learning and doing your best, being a living, caring human being makes a difference. And you'll never know how, but trust me, it does. Second, pay attention. Not every cause you serve will touch your heart in the same way. I must have delivered hundreds of Meals on Wheels with my mom when I was a TikToker, and I can't remember much more than the funny smell of the food in my mom's car. It didn't stick. But that summer working with Michael and the horses has always stayed with me, and I can't explain why. Pay attention to what scares you, what inspires you, where you see a change happening from week to week, month to month, or year to year. Notice what matters to you. It has to matter to you. Finally, look back and reflect on how you're spending your one wild and precious life. That's from the poet Mary Oliver, by the way. Do you like what you see? Great, keep going. Is it not what you wanted, not what you hoped for? That's okay too. You get to change the story. Your perspective is constantly changing as you gain new experiences. Be willing to tell yourself, or tell your mom, when things aren't working. Find the courage to take a risk and make a change. It might be messy, but that's okay. If I've learned anything from horses, is that the mess can be the magic. I'm not here to tell you that Mucking Stalls is awesome. Believe me. But following your heart has a huge potential to make a difference. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something. Your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference. As we bring Steve Jobs back into this conversation, I'd like to encourage you to not pick up your iPhone as soon as this event is over. Instead, as you're driving home, take a minute or two with your mom, with your daughters, to talk about what matters to you. It doesn't have to be important to anyone but you. Today, we celebrate all the hours you've contributed in NCL Journey, but right now, please talk about the ones that matter most. It might change your life. It might also change the world. Thank you.